Hey guys, welcome back to the Ladder Up Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Creech, where we talk about spiritual growth, personal development, and leadership. And today we're going to talk about the extension of faith. Today I'm going to ask you a question that can change your life. How are you living intentional? What's your intentionality? What intentional purpose are you putting together? So today, as we go through this, we want to dive deep into the intention of where you are. So we started off with faith, which is the first step on the ladder, and then we had action, which was the second step on the ladder, and now we're going to put those two together with intentionality. Are your intentions? What do you intend? What are you persisting to do? What do you believe in where you are and what you're going to do? That is step 3 on the ladder. So this is a formula. We're going to go through the whole faith formula that I've used several times in some businesses that I opened. It's a tried and true formula that seems to work for everybody. When I used the faith formula to start my business, I moved into this with decision, with definite of purpose of where I was going to go, and that changed my decision making. What I was actually going to do. So once I had a definite purpose of where I was going, I had a direction. At the time, it was just that I needed to go east, or west or whatever direction it was. I just needed to go that direction. So then my intentionality became, so then what do I do first? What do I do second? What do I do third, fourth, and fifth? And so that's what we want to talk about today, your intentionality that would take you towards your purpose. Now, every day when you start, there should be at least 3 steps or maybe 4 steps that you take every day, whether the big steps or small steps that leads you towards your purpose. There's an intentional movement of every day, whether it be a phone call, whether it be taking a loan out for what you got to have, filing the right papers, ordering the right inventory, or just deciding who your actual clients will be. You can sell anything to anybody. So what exact clients am I going to have? What's the purpose and what's the location that I need to be in? Like say with real estate is location, location, location. So where is that feasible to? So each one of these steps goes along with intentionality. So once you get some of the big ones intentional, that's kind of easy to put together. Like you need a bank account, you need a EIN number, you need all this stuff. Then you break down to what you're going to actually do. The small intentionals, the small steps that are strategic, intentional movements that you make. Like what time you're going to get up, where you're going to go, the clients you're going to have, the products you're going to sell, where you're going to be. And so each one of those things that when I decided to get in the ladder business, that was a key thing that we had to do. Now we sell, I guess anybody in the world, every household needs a ladder, but every household don't need my ladder. They need a ladder. And I was very intentional about the ladders that I sell. I don't sell ladders to people that need it to get out of the attic. They're Christmas decorations or Easter decorations once or twice a year. That's not the ladder I sell. I sell a ladder that is a tool that you use to make money off of. That was my intentional movement, not to sell this ladder, but to sell this ladder. And that came from strategic research of what to do. So the same way with your business. So then when I got into the truck industry business part of it, it was the exact same thing. So what kind of ladder racks do I do? Do I do van or truck? Do I do, service bodies, flatbeds, what of that stuff? And as we strategically went through there, we had an intentional purpose of every step that we went through. Every meeting that we had a intentional design that said will this work? So you go back to the thing, we have a big board over there that says hitches and toppers and ladder racks and spray-in bed liners and, everything else that you could put on a truck. And probably every little square that has that written in it probably has 10 or 15 different suppliers that you could buy this from. So then you had to go through those intentional things. Which ones are the best? Which ones would they use? Which ones will they buy? It's not always best to sell the cheapest. But it's not always best to sell the most expensive, because sometimes just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's the right product for your truck. What is a territory that you use? What is the area that you're in? we sell a lot of ladder racks, but we sell ladder racks that you can haul material on, like big ladders, gutters, garage doors, piping, situation like that. We don't sell ladder racks that you can put a tent on, or a bicycle ladder rack or anything like that. We don't do anything like that for that. So our intentional moves is where we are. So whatever you're trying to do in your life, whatever your next step is in your life, you had the faith, you had a belief that you went into. And I believe that things I try to say with faith is like, you can see the invisible and you can believe in the impossible. And when you can do those two things, then the miracles or the incredible that most people can't see come about for you. That's the faith. And that faith comes about through the actions that you take. And the actions that you take comes from the trust or the intentionality that you have to move forward in what you do. And that's what we're going to try to talk to you about here today. Imagine for a second, just look around you. As I look around me, there's a special light right here. There's a camera right there. There's a microphone here, chairs there, doors there, light switches. Everything that you see around you was somebody's imagination at one time. And then they used the formula, they took the action, and then they had an intentional purpose of what they do it with. Now there's a light switch right there. Some of them have 6 on them, some have dimmers, some have flip buttons, some have this. So the big idea was the light switch. The intentionality was the specific light switch that you have. Same way in the studio, we have lights all around the ceiling. But this light right here that's shining on me right now is intentionally designed specifically for what we're doing here. Now look at it like this. So this is where we're going to talk about ladders again. We always do, is you go up to the red light. There's a red, a yellow, and a green. And each one of those are intentional for a purpose. The red means you stop. The yellow means, well, used to tell my kid it meant to hurry up and speed through it, but it doesn't. It means cautiously slow down. And then the green is so you can go through. So what we do is when we're intentionally at those red lights, we look around and there's a truck or a van or something with a ladder on it. Then you ask yourself, hey, where am I at on that ladder? Am I standing still? Am I moving forward? Am I going back? It's a step ladder on it, so that's our faith growth ladder. Or there's a big extension ladder, so that must be a personal growth ladder. Or there's a small articulating ladder on it that's been all kind of different directions. That's our leadership ladder. So while you're sitting there for the next 2 or 3 minutes waiting on the red light to change, you just kind of rehearse that through your mind. Where am I at on this ladder? Where am I at on my spiritual growth ladder? Where am I at on my personal development ladder? Where am I at on my leadership ladder? The intentionality is something that we must pay attention to. So when you decide what you're going to do, you take the actions, you figure out your purpose, then you want to back it up and be specific, intentional of where you're going to go with each design that you do in your business. So some of you may have heard there's a verse in the Bible that says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's intentional thinking. And this is the great thing about intentional thinking. When you start zeroing in and the thoughts are coming out of your energy's coming off of your body or coming out of your mind or going into the universe, that it's intentional what you want. I can guarantee you the Lord will rearrange the universe for the things that you're looking for to appear, to come about. You walk the way you would be successful. We call that as is. Thinking intentional as if. Think intentional as if your prayer's already been answered, as if your goals already been accomplished, as your desires come about. Walk like it, talk like it, dress like it, think like it. Be that person that's there, the intentional thinking. That's why the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That stuff will go out into the universe like a prayer, and the Lord will rearrange the universe to bring those things you need to you, because each frequency is a positive or negative, and each frequency connects to another frequency. It's kind of like a magnet. You have a magnet for steel, you pick it up, it'll attract all the steel on the table. Pick it up. That's the same way your thoughts go out. When they go out, whatever they are, good or bad, that's what they attract, and it brings it back to you. Because there's another quote that says in the Bible that well, I can't remember that. We got to cut that. But it says what comes back to you. What it doesn't go out. The prayers that go out doesn't come back void. That's what I'm trying to say. So the prayers that go out does not come back void. So the same way with your thoughts. Your thoughts go out. You have an intentional thought, not just a random thought that you're throwing out there, but an intentional thought on as if I am living as if my prayers have been answered, my goals and desires have been answered, and you dress, walk, think, talk, and act just like the person you want to be. Just remember, guys, just remember this. Pay attention. As you think intentionally, then you become intentionally in what you do. Speaking of goals, this is the first step of becoming intentional. So we always talk about the ABCs or 1, 2, 3s of goals. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to draw it, and it's going to be on the board here. We're going to try to go through this. So a goal, some of this drawing may not work out just right. A goal is your present results. That's your A goal. That's what you already know how to do. You already know. Now your B goal is what you think you can do. And that is what we call when you make a plan. You make a plan for that. Now here we get to the good stuff. This is your C goal. This is your fantasy. That's your fantasy. That is when you sit down and break down what you really want. So this is how they work. This is your A goal. The present results, something you already know how to do. Your B goal is whenever you have to rearrange a few things to figure it out, and you make a plan. But your C goal is your fantasy. It's what you really want to do. That's something you've been doing, wanting to do all your life that you've never done, or something that you just, and the best way I figured that out for me was in the beginning was, what could I sit down and talk about for an hour? If you just came up to me and said, start talking for an hour, what could I do? I could tell you about welding or planning or farming or framing or IT or whatever it was. That's your thing. And then you go back to some of the things that you could do. You ask yourself, what have I done before where I just got lost in the time? And next thing you know, been 2 or 3 hours went by, or maybe 5 hours, or, what could keep coming up? Sometimes that's how we figure out what our fantasy C-type goals are. Yeah, we want to follow with the A, B, C goals. The thing to remember is the A goal is you already know how to do it, so it's kind of what you get now. The B goal is to make a little plan and change a few things around, but there's no inspiration in that. So you really have kind of, instead of the big faith that we're talking about now, you just kind of got a blind faith, which blind faith doesn't do diddly, because usually about the first little bump you have, then the inspiration's gone, or why would I do that, or I don't want to do that anymore. It's not worth it. It's too much, So that's the thing we have to remember, that A and B is something that most people start but don't finish because there's just no inspiration in it. There's no drive. There's no learning the new you. There's no growing your character. There's no growing your imagination or your reasoning or your intuition. It's just something that you already know how to do and do it. So that's why we always focus in on the C-type goal. It's so amazing that if you can accomplish it, that it's just the only reason you did it because God gave it to you, or you did exactly what we told you to do. Is something that's totally out of your realm that you have no idea how to do it. And the C-type goal is one of those goals that should scare you and excite you at the same time. And if it's not doing that, then maybe you need to reevaluate what you're doing on your C-type goals. So as we talk about these ABC goals again, this is your C-type goal. This is your fantasy. So this is where it starts. We're going to do a little triangle theory on it right now. This is your fantasy right here. This is where you have thought about it as something that you want that's unimaginable. It just excites you and scares you at the same time. So you come up with that, and then this is where the triangle comes in, and this is your theory. Oop. And that is your goal right there, actually, your goal. So as it comes along, this is a fantasy. You've come up with it. You're scared. You don't know what to do. You have no idea how it's going to work. You're just going through this thing. And this is where your reasoning thinking kicks in. I can't write on this. Thinking kicks in right here. You start putting it all together. You go, oh my God, this is, and then your mind starts being free to go out and think a whole bunch of different things. So you do that. And then this down here will become the facts. And this becomes the fantasy. So then when you start this, your fantasy and your reasoning thinking, you have to ask yourself really two questions. You got to ask yourself, am I able? And if you believe science and theology, it says all things are possible, you can do it. So there's no reason you shouldn't be able to do it. But here's the kicker. You got to ask yourself, am I willing? This is where the question, this is where the rubber meets the road. Am I willing? Am I willing to go the extra mile? Am I willing to do the study after night, after hours? Am I willing to get up early and do what I got to do? Am I willing to make that phone call? So once you start this, your fantasy, I'm willing and I'm able. We decided that. So you start reasoning, thinking, you start putting it together. Then you come up with some plans, and then it comes across, and then fantasy again. So this is the way I like to look at it. So I decided to do it. It goes around. And then over here, you have to put in action. So you had a fantasy, you started thinking about it, so you put your thoughts and your theory into action, that becomes facts. Now, each time you go around this triangle, there's a word in the middle I like to put in there. What we're talking about right now is faith. So every time you go around this triangle, the faith becomes stronger. It's easier. It's easier to do. So then, after you do a C-type fantasy or a C-type goal the first time, it usually takes a while because am I able? Yes. Am I willing? Oh my gosh, I'm trying so hard. I don't know what to do. This is where it comes to get coaches like me involved with you, because we can be your accountability partner. We can actually teach you how to use your reasonable thinking, how to put your imagination. This is another thing that has to be activated strongly, is your imagination. That's why you should have a coach to come along with you, or a mentor to come along and help you create your imagination. Because when you do it by yourself, you go, oh my God, I want to do this. And then you start thinking about it, and there's no reality that tells you can do it. So then you kind of just lose interest. You just kind of like, it goes back to the AB type goal where there's just no inspiration. This is a lot of inspiration, but it takes some work. It takes some intentionality. It takes some intentional studying, some intentional action, some intentional faith, some intentional desire to do what the C-type goals are. Now, the thing about a C-type goal is once you complete it, it's amazing. It feels so good. So the next time you do a C-type goal, this is the thing that I think this is where it would go in. There's really no there. You're here, and you want to go there. And once you go there, then there is here again. So you just keep making the block. So a lot of times people struggle once they get way down the road and they have this huge C-type goal, say, I don't know, say an Olympian or somebody that has a gymnast or a skater or, a skier that has practiced all their life from the time they were a kid. And this is their C-type goal to make it to the Olympics and win gold medal. And then they do. But this is what's weird. The sun will come up tomorrow, but you've already accomplished your goal. So there has to be another goal to go along with what you're doing. That's where you get on the ladder and you get stuck. You've accomplished something. Go to the next rung takes imagination, reasoning, faith, action, and intentionality to go to the next rung. And that's what we want to keep you guys doing. Once you get on this train, we don't want you to get off. We want you to keep going around, keep being envisioned of what you can do, keep accomplishing your C-type goals, keep accomplishing who you are, keep growing in your character, keep growing in your life, and keep growing in your journey. People that write their goals down are 80% more likely to accomplish them than people that don't. Actually, I'm going to say it's more like 94%. Statistics show that you will accomplish them if you have them written down. Now, if you have them written down and read them and make intentionality to it, then it's almost 100% that what you write down you would accomplish. Now, this is the thing. You could do this. You could just try this at your school or college or hometown or church or wherever you are. Just walk down the street and ask people. Walk up to people random and go, hey, what's your goal in life? I guarantee you 97% of them will have no idea what you're talking about. And the 3% that do know what you're talking about, they go, oh, yeah, my goal is to do this and this and this. Then you ask them to let you look at it. They don't have it written down. Life is meant to be lived intentional. To get the most out of everything that God has given you in this universe is to be intentional about what you do. You don't just get up and float around like a leaf in the air or in the ocean, or the bird feather flying around and it's, from here to there. It's intentionality. It's intentional. What do you want? What do you want in this life? Whatever you want in this life has already been produced. It's just waiting on you to decide with the faith and the action and intentionality to receive it. Whatever you want. So when you make these C-type goals, you want to go back and review them every day. Now, this is what I've done. I got it in my pocket right here. This is my goal card. Every time I get ready to do something in life, matter of fact, my podcast is on here. When I get ready to do something in life, I write it down on a goal card. I read it in the morning, the first thing I do when I wake up. A lot of times at lunch, when I'm by myself, I'll just pick it out of my pocket and read it. And then at night, right before I go to bed, I read it again. And see, the 2 times to read it the most is right when you wake up and right before you go to bed at night. Now, there's a whole statistic about why all that works with your mental capacity in your brain and your different layers of your thinking where you are. But if you'll do it at nighttime just before you go to sleep, then your subconscious doesn't sleep. It continuously focuses on and works on and figures problems out and stuff like that throughout your whole night. And then in the morning time, you're coming into like data thinking, or the mind, and it's open to your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is where your habits are, which is what we're going to talk about next, which is the things that your programming is. So when you read these goals, you have to set measures and stops on them. Where you want to be, where you're going to go. And the intentionality is I'm here and I want to go there. And the only way to get there is to make a committed decision, the definites that we talked about in the very beginning. And that comes by looking at your goals, reading your goals. Now, here's a secret sauce to your goals. You must get emotionally involved with your goals. If you don't get emotionally involved with your goals, then they are just sayings. They are just words that you read, and you may accomplish some of it, but you won't change with your character and your personality of who you are to become that person. It'll be a struggle. It'll be whatever you want to call it. But you must get emotionally involved with your goals. You must feel it down in your, get chills when you start talking about it. Just get excited whenever somebody asks you. You can just tell on your voice it changes. If you can do that, then that speeds up the process of how it is. Because I hear people all the time tell me that, well, I did that 2 weeks ago, or I did that 2 months ago, or I did that. So how long is it going to take? And all I can tell you is going to take until it does. But if you want to speed it up, do the work. Read the goals. Say the prayers. Make the phone calls. Everything that your purpose and your goal has on it, make sure you're doing that with intentionality, which is with your DNA and your feelings and when you do that, it speeds it up like lightning. And when you're going through your goals and reading them, and each night when you go to bed or before you go to sleep, measure and mark your goals and celebrate the small wins. You might have only made 1 phone call today, but that might have been the only one you needed to make. You might have only, if you're losing weight, you only might have lost a pound this week. Okay, you lost a pound. Don't beat yourself up because you didn't maximize the goal. Always give yourself credit. Always mark and measure where you are and celebrate the wins. Celebrate the small wins. Everybody can't hit a grand slam, but you can always get on base. You can always do it somehow or another. So make sure, I don't know how to say this strong enough, to make sure you honor and celebrate your small wins and your goals. So I want to go back and say this. Remember this. I want you to know this for a fact. You're not walking a tightrope. You're not walking on a thin line that you could teeter-totter either way and fall off and the whole thing's over with. That's not how it works. You're climbing the ladder. You've got it leaned against the right wall. You've got the right ladder to climb on. We just need you to take the action step. It's not a tightrope. It's a step ladder, or it's an extension ladder that you're climbing on. 1 rung at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 moment at a time. And when I first started doing my goal settings and my goal cards, sometimes I read it 10 times. a day. I read it all the time. But this is what happens. I want to jump back a little bit because it just came to me. When it's in my pocket and I touch my pocket, then it automatically goes up my arm, and then I start reciting my goals, just like that. I'm not even intentionally doing it. It said I've intentionally enough done. I intentionally did the process enough that now then when I pick the pen up or when I touch the card, it automatically goes through my mind. So remember, you're not on a tightrope, you're on a ladder. So hey guys, as we wrap this up, this session on intentionality and faith in action, and it's Holy Week and Easter Sunday and Friday's Good Friday, and so my prayer for you is to be intentional with God. This would be a great time whether you go to church or not. This would be a great time to go to church. I just talking about from my faith and where I was at when I started going to church, then things seemed to become more at peace. I was able to get a little more in ease of my thinking and where I was going to go. And I got a little more ability to believe in what could happen for me. So anyway, happy Easter, go to church, and remember, keep climbing.